Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Welcome to the week. We are midway through Mercury retrograde, and bitch wants to know what has been breaking in your life? What has been taking just a little bit of extra time? What has felt spicy inside your own mercurial thoughts? That's kind of the vibe. What I've noticed about this Mercury retrograde is that there have been a lot of moments of things not working or things taking a little bit more time, not necessarily breaking all the way, but like threatening. There's been some threats in my life of my children not getting along, of, our grill when we were on vacation. So fun finding new places to record videos. Our grill wasn't working. We couldn't get this one light to work. And it's not that it wasn't working. It was just that we had to stop, take a minute, slow down, reflect, and try again. And that has pretty much been my go-to scenario for this Mercury retrograde. Stop, drop, and roll. Except don't roll. Just think about it and take a little bit of extra time. So I want you to stop and think about the things that have been going on in your world for the last couple of weeks. And what could you have stopped and thought about a little bit longer? What have you had to stop and think about a little longer than normal to be able to find the right solution for you? That's kind of how Mercury retrograde rocks. Sometimes things just absolutely collapse and break. And, there's also been a lot of souls leaving this world. There's been a lot of death. There's been a lot of departing of soul, of self, of body, of mind. There's this news that they're thinking the asteroid in the sky isn't an asteroid, but an extraterrestrial, and that it might be hostile. There's all this information out in the world, and Mercury retrograde asks us to think about it. Not just act on it all the time, but to think about it, to process it, and to put it in a new place inside of ourselves so that maybe some growth can happen. I know that it's felt sticky inside my bones, sticky inside the walls of my heart lately, and that I haven't had access to moving through my emotions as quickly as I usually am able to. Things get stuck along the way inside my heart, and they got to rattle around in there for a little while before I can make peace with whatever it is that's going bump in the night. So this is a permission slip this week to understand that there's gift in the holdup, that there is a solution when we take a few more extra minutes instead of just wanting what we want when we want it. So that's my little Mercury retrograde update. Stop and think about yours. Stop and think about what is up for review for you in this coming week. We've got some interesting astrology to work with this week. It starts on Wednesday. Chiron is going retrograde in Aries. And so more planet, another one in retrograde. So here is the thought process around Chiron. Chiron is one of my favorite things to work with because to me, Chiron is the thing that stays with us always. It is the thing that doesn't heal inside of us. And right now in the sky, it is in Aries. So it is highlighting that first house of self, of body, of process, of fire, of who do you think you are? And it's a pain body. So whenever I work with anyone who has a Chiron in Aries, it's the wound of, but what about me? It's that little kid at the table, asking to be noticed, saying, but what about me? Where's my place in this? And oftentimes as children, those kids were the ones that had to step up to the plate and not think about themselves and do for others. But the doing for themselves was the thing that hurts. And so what would start a fight in Aries Chiron would be someone overusing that person and not thinking about how that's affecting them or where their role in it is or when it gets to be their turn. Because a Chiron Aries needs it to be their turn to help heal. And if it's never their turn in their family reality, in their relationship reality, in their kid reality, then it's gonna hurt and ache and they'll be resentful and a little pissy. So that's going on in the cosmos right now. So there is this direct, when things go retrograde, slowness and reconciliation and or thought around who do you think you are and who's noticing you, because we're also in Leo season. So it is the notion of taking space in the room, in the house, in the entire universe. It is important for you as a person to take space in your life. And when you're constantly taking the back road or sidestepping so someone else can go by, then it's really up for review of how you allow yourself to take space. I think of the person that gets bumped into in the street and they're the one that says sorry, even though they weren't the one that did any of the bumping in the first place. That is the energy we're working up against with it going retrograde. It is a review of how many times are you getting bumped into and are you saying sorry, when really it's the other way around. How much space are you willing to take up to advocate for yourself? How is it that you have been getting grumpy in certain aspects of your life where you aren't being recognized for the hard work that you're bringing in? These are concepts that I want you to process this week around it being your turn. And if we're moving slower, and if this is a retrospective time in this kind of vibe, which it is, it's not about taking up space in the actual room and being obnoxious about it right now. It is about recognizing where you aren't taking up space, where maybe you need to be, and how would you like to be, and what could you do? What are some options? What are some thought processes around the idea of taking up space in the room? So this isn't an action-based astrology, rather it is a feeling-based one. It is the idea of the feeling that can help you process it better so that then you can start activating it and taking up more space in the room, etc. So it's also sensitive and painful. So there might be a few hiccups in the next bit of time where you do feel like you aren't being recognized for all that you're doing, where you aren't being noticed for what it is that you're bringing to the table. And that might feel extra painful right now. So where you don't get to take up space in the room, where you don't get validated or recognized, where you don't take care of your physical health, because it's also about the body, it's going to be up for review. So you don't have to go crazy in action right now. It's more just being aware of, well, if you work too hard, you're going to make your body tired. And if your body is tired, then the work is going to get harder. And if the work gets harder, then the resentment builds. And if the resentment builds, then you feel quiet and shut down. And if you're quiet and shut down, then you're not taking space in the room. And you start going down this rabbit hole to get to the basic, ideology of you must put on your safety mask first. If you are not safe, if you are not worked on, if you are not loved, if you are not feeling what you are giving out, because most times what we give others is what we desperately want for ourselves, then the well starts to get so dry that our body starts to react. So if you're getting more headaches, if your back is hurting, if your knees are aching, if you're waking up slower, if things feel harder in your body, I want you to really attune to yourself in what it is that is being neglected, that your body is asking you to reevaluate, to work through. So that's all. It's gentle. It can be. It can also be painful in your body and in your heart. So approaching that kind of energy with gentleness and compassion, not just for you, but for everybody else. Because remember, this is astrology for everyone. So this is something that everyone is going to be sensitive to and feeling right now. So that's vibes. And then on Wednesday, also Venus moves into Cancer. This is really different energy than where it was. Venus was in Gemini. It was here. It was there. It was loving you. It was doing that. It was changing the sheets. It was showing, not telling. And now with Venus in Cancer, it is this deep Mama Earth, love, water, medicine. This ability to want to love deeper. This ability to want to connect in a richer way. And I kind of love that this Chiron retrograde is doing it at the same time that Venus is going into Cancer, because it is this very emotionally aware time of wanting to be nurturing and be nurtured, of wanting to love and be loved in return, of wanting to take care and be taken care of. So it's going to be glaringly obvious where the lack is in these scenarios. So this week it's important to pay attention to all of this stuff. And to understand that, when Venus moves into Cancer, it's more a time to be with your family. It's more a time to have home-cooked meals. It's more a time to have a good nap, to stay home, to not go do the crazy thing that you've been doing with Venus being in Gemini. It's like hither, thither, hot and cold, yes and no. And this one, Cancers just deeply want to be felt. And so with Venus being in Cancer, we just want to be felt and to feel each other and to take our time with that, with all of these planets in retrograde too. It's a slowing down and a nurturing energy, or more so a desire to be nurtured. So lean in, hug your people more, call your mom. I wish I could call mine still. Do all of the things that help make you feel cozy at the end of a day, because that's going to be really important. And then on Thursday, the sun is doing, it's a beautiful thing that it does. It's my favorite word, you guys. It is right next to Mercury. Mercury is in the sun, and when a planet is in the sun, we call it a cazimi. It is a Mercury cazimi. It is the best astrology during a Mercury retrograde that you can have, because all of the sudden, this Thursday, there are conversations, aha moments, thought clarity, these beautiful parting of the clouds inside of us, where we can see clearly, where we can see something differently, where we can get an answer if we're really honest and searching for it. I love a good Mercury cazimi. And when it's in Leo, it is like the notion of how you stand out, the very self-oriented way of being. How are you showing up? And you're gonna get, because that's been the question anyway. And the cazimi is gonna bring the answer. Who am I? Well, the Mercury cazimi has some ideas for you, has some ways to help you stand out, which is also, I dare say, pairing nicely with Venus going into Cancer and Chiron going retrograde. This infinity symbol of all of the astrology is working together, that even when it's hard, there is a working together that helps you to process, understand, and go deeper. Always, 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 astrology is here to help us go deeper. So where in your life are you needing to deep dive? Because you've got some clarity coming around the corner. So why not mess up the joint, like get it a little messy, because you're gonna do some major tidying up in there. On Thursday, it is the best energy for Mercury retrograde, because all of the sudden, all the stuff that hasn't been working, all of the frustrations of Mercury retrograde, there's the aha moment of, oh, that's why that happened. That's why I've needed to slow down. That's why I've needed to see this differently. That's why. And I love a good "that is why" answer. I love having a core issue and then looking back at the week and understanding how life experience is what solved it. That I think in this culture, we are so very much always just wanting the answers. We'll copy off other people's papers. We'll do whatever we need to do to get to the answer, to get to the end, to get to the cookie, the proverbial cookie I talk about all the time. But without the curiosity around the inquiry, without the lived experience of finding the answer to that inquiry, what is it all for? Like, what's the point of knowing how the story ends if you didn't live the middle of that story? How can you be proud of an outcome that you didn't have to work hard for? How can you understand true joy if you didn't have to go through the grit and pain that is accompanied with any other extreme emotion? That's what we work with a lot in astrology, is oppositions, that you can't have one feeling without an understanding of the other one. And so this Mercury retrograde cazimi on Thursday is going to show you what this Mercury retrograde has been trying to show you all along. And you're going to say, oh, right, 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have known that, but now I do. Thank you, Mercury retrograde. Thanks for being a dick, because sometimes it is dickish what happens to us in a Mercury retrograde. I have felt it. There have been so many times where I'm like, why can't this just be easier? And then I go through the hard thing. Like, here is an example in my personal life. I am on vacation, right? So everybody around me in my life looks at it like, oh, lucky, you're on vacation. And yes, So grateful to be on vacations. Vacations are amazing. Being with my dad and his girlfriend Shelly and my kids and Dustin, my partner, is just wonderful. It truly, truly is a wonderful thing. However, okay, like, it can be hard too. My kids fight a lot, and getting on the same wavelength and making plans for all of us and organizing and cooking and cleaning. You know, there's so much that goes into a family vacation that it isn't always just the out breath. There's also in breaths. And I feel like the big lesson that I learned was the first couple of days was hard. One of my kids was tantruming a lot. The other one had a lot of preteen ideologies that were annoying. And there was a feeling of, ugh, vacation doesn't feel like vacation, and now I feel ungrateful, and then I'd start to spiral, and down I would go. But so we went through all of that, and then last night it was just the most beautiful of times. They eased, it let up, the kids started getting along, the grill got fixed. You know, we were able to be at the pool, and then my dad cooked me dinner, and it was delicious, and we watched Happy Gilmore too, which was so fun, by the way, if you like Happy Gilmore. And it was a beautiful night, and I was able to have that out breath. And would I have relished it as much if I hadn't had the in breath of what it took to get us there? And that is the lesson of what it takes to get you there. It doesn't always take easy, and it's not always fun, but we are all climbing our own proverbial mountains in our life. And when things are hard, to have faith and trust that there are the peaks, that there are the out breaths, that there are the joys, that there are the moments where we win something, or we get a good night's sleep, or we have really good sex, or we have a nice conversation, or we feel heard and seen for the first time, or we finally have that big breakdown that we've been building up all of these weeks having, and then we have it, and then there's the release. And then we can let go a little bit deeper, feel a little bit more, and appreciate a little bit richer. So this is what Mercury retrograde teaches us. And then we end the week with Venus having this square to Saturn and Neptune, who are also both in retrograde. So just as Venus has made this transition into Cancer, and we're starting to want, because when I think of Venus in Cancer, I think of I want to feel, I want the depth, I want the longing, the unnamed longing inside of you starts to reach its claws and climb on up into you, and all of the sudden it is out there. The want, the longing, the need, the thing, the cookie. It's right in front of your face. And when Venus is squaring Saturn and Neptune, both in retrograde, there's this all of a sudden a popping of the bubble, of the fantasy, of the storybook that we tell ourselves of what life is supposed to look like because of all the lies and stories and fictions that are all around us all the time. And so when Venus squares Saturn and Neptune in retrograde, it is time to look back and say, where have I been naive? Where have I just expected it to work out where it hasn't? Where has been the fantasy versus the reality? And Venus wants the real deal. We want the full meal deal when we are Venus in Cancer, okay? But like then here comes the retrograde, Saturn and Neptune saying, but that was never real. What you said you wanted or what you currently have isn't a real example of what you want. Because what you truly want is over here, and you have to work for that thing, and you have to learn that lesson, and you have to acquire that. It's like in video games, you have to level up in order to get to the things that you think you're wanting. And so the pipe dreams go away during transits like this. The notions that are false go away during these kinds of transits. And more importantly, the curtain and veil drops. And finally, you can see it for what it really is. What that is for you in your life right now, I don't know. Maybe it's really sad. Maybe there is a letting go of a relationship, a friendship, a job, a relationship to your bad habits that you've had, that in order for Venus in Cancer to truly thrive, to truly get nurtured, and to truly feel into that longing that gets awakened this week, you have to let something go. Or you have to accept that the thing that you were longing for wasn't real. It wasn't the actual thing that you're longing for. Do you know how sometimes you can get to the end of the day and say, I'm tired. And it isn't necessarily that you're body tired, though maybe you are, but when you go to the root of I'm tired, and you can follow that feeling all the way through. I'm tired. I've been tired. There's no rest. Life doesn't feel restful. I have felt pressure. The pressure has been building. I am nothing without this pressure because I put this pressure on myself to produce, to do, to be the thing everybody needs me to do. And what if I don't accomplish that? And what if I don't reach my goals? And I'm working so hard and I'm doing the dishes and I'm waking up in the morning and I'm doing my diet routine and I'm eating right and yet I'm still fat. Poof! That's why you're tired. So a simple exclamation of I'm tired goes so much deeper than that. So at the end of this week, I want you to think about that when we're tired, we're not always just simply tired. We're exhausted from all of the circles we've put ourselves through. When we're angry, we're not just mad because the delivery truck didn't show up on time. We're mad because we don't feel shown up for in this life. And the delivery truck is simply just a model. It is a structure. It is a paradigm that we use for which to feel that anger and frustration. So always understand that whatever emotion is coming up this week, there is a deeper nebulous to that emotion. You aren't just mad for no reason. You're not tired for nothing, and you're not feeling lonely because there isn't someone around to just immediately gratify that need. No, there is a deep longing inside of us that we have not attended to for a long time. And Venus in Cancer says, I will attend to it. And the square to Neptune and Saturn says, but first, you must see how you've been perceiving it wrong. So, vibes this week, you guys. Vibes and vibes upon vibes. And it's all about being slower. And the card I pulled is called Time for a Nap. Right. Exactly. Just as I say. It's not a time to be doing per se. It is a time of incubation. It is a time to get honest with yourself. It is a time to find a richness in this said longing, because in what we are desiring and longing for is a solution. We just have to look deeper. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, feed my own longing by sharing me as much as you can. This is my deepest longing, and the questions are not lost on me, my dear friends. How to get out there, how to be out there, how to be the most honest version of myself so I attract the people that in turn want to be authentic and honest back with me, so that then my business can skyrocket in a level of authenticity to the likes of which we have never seen before. And a simple like helps me get there. A simple share, a simple follow, a simple subscribing is all it takes to turn my longing into something so much deeper. And I so appreciate you all for listening. I will see you next week.